Hey, hi, I'm Ayush Gandhi, and in this video we'll be covering count and sum functions in Excel and how to use them effectively. So let's dive in.
For sum, where sum is used, for example, you have numerical values and you want to calculate their aggregate, which is their sum. So in that case you use sum. So to put a formula, we put an is equal to first, is equal to, and followed by the formula itself. For sum, it's sum. The formula itself is sum. So you'll write SUM, you'll put an opening curved bracket, or either you can just write SU, find it, use the arrow keys to find it over here, and then press tab. So you can press tab and it will automatically put an opening bracket for you. Closing brackets aren't important if it's a single function, but if it's a multiple function you'll have to pay attention to closing brackets too. So let's have the sum of 1. So now there are two options. It's saying you can put number 1 comma, which is optional as it's in brackets, and your number 2. So let's put number 2 comma number 2. So I gave its reference. So as soon as I press enter, it should return the sum of 1 and 5. So it exactly did that and it returned the sum of 1 and 5. But I want to find the sum of all of these values. So doing it in this way, 1 comma the next value comma the next value is a very tedious process. So instead of that, we just put our sum function. We just let me show it again. We put an equal to sign, sum, and then we select all of the range where we want to apply the formula. So I selected all of the range and put a closing bracket. It's not compulsory, so let's leave it for now and press enter. As soon as I press enter, it will return the sum, the aggregate of all these values 1 5 7 2 4 5 6 2, which is 32. So just for the sake of simplicity, let's do sum over here so we can see the comparison between all three of them, sum, SUMIF and SUMIFS. So sum this whole range and press enter. So that's 32. So what is SUMIF now? We just covered sum. What is SUMIF? So SUMIF is another function which returns the value on a specific criteria, on a single criteria. For example, you want the sum of sales where the color of the car or bike sold, it's irrespective which type of vehicle was sold, but the color should be black. So you have only a single criteria that you want the sum of sales where the color was black. So we'll use SUMIF. So the function, how you'll enter SUMIF is you'll just write SUMIF, or you can find it over here, just write sum, and there it is, SUMIF, and press tab. First you have to select your range, that is your criteria range. It should be explicitly notified, but they just write range. So let's select our criteria range first, followed by your criteria itself. So the criteria is black, then the sum range. This is the sum range. So both of these values, both of these ranges should have equal number of rows. Okay, so now let's press enter. So it returned 7. And how did it return 7? It actually went to this table, selected only those values where we told it that the color was black. So it selected this row, then it went to this row as the color is black over there too, and this row. So the sum of 1, 2 and 4 is 7. That's what SUMIF does. So but what if we want the sum where there are two criterias? I want the sum for car where the color is black. So now I have two criterias. What are those two criterias? I want sum only for car, type car, and color should be black. So how do we do it? So we cannot use SUMIF because it has only a single criteria. We'll use SUMIFS. So let's put SUMIFS. You can either enter it full or you can select from the drop down and press tab. So now SUMIFS and select the sum range. So now see the difference between SUMIF and SUMIFS. See, you can see it yourself. The sum range is first in this case, and in case of SUMIF the sum range was at last. So these things are kind of messy. You have to look at it closely. Sometimes you'll make mistakes, but you'll have to recheck and see what mistake you are doing. So let's select the sum range first. Now we have to select our criteria range, criteria 1 range. So let's select our criteria 1. We can select anyone. The order does not depend. The order is not dependent on anything. So let's take type as our first criteria, and now it's asking what is your criteria 1. You just selected a range to find criteria in, but what is your criteria? So my criteria is car. So this is case sensitive, I believe. Let's just check. This is case sensitive, car. Let's put the second as black and press enter. So it is not case sensitive. Another point to be noted, most functions in Excel, that was just a check on myself, most functions in Excel are not case sensitive. So for Excel, black and this black is almost the same. It's the same. In fact, when we later on cover filters, we will find that filters are not case dependent and they'll show both values, small and capitalized. So none of the Excel functions, most of the Excel functions are not case dependent. Hence, even on writing car with a capital C, the answer was exactly right. So it went to car black and it only found one value. So it only returned that value. Let's go to car and see there's no car black anymore. There's only one value that exists and it's car sales. But what will happen if we just select something that does not exist? For example, instead of selecting black, I select red. In that case, it will give 0. It will give 0, that there's nothing over here present, and the sum of nothing is nothing. So it will return 0 and not throw an error. So there is another thing that we can note here, that instead of writing car, we could just have clicked on car itself. It would pick the criteria from there, or we could click anywhere where our criteria is written and the cell will automatically reference that. Okay, so now moving onwards, we have our count functions. It's the same kind of functions like sum, but it does a different thing. Count calculates or returns the number of letters and numbers present in a table. So if we use count over here, counts the number of cells that contains numbers. It will not count alphabets. So if we count these values and press enter, it will return 8. So it's not the sum of these values, it just returns the number of rows. You can take it as number of rows that contained numbers. Okay, so this is a confusing thing. So let's just try count over here. What will happen if we apply a count function to letters and alphabets? So as soon as we press enter, we'll see that count returns 0. Why? Because there was no number present in the range that we selected. So what does count do? Count, applied this way, returns the number of numbers present. Then what is COUNTIF? The same as SUMIF. It's count but with one single criteria. So select only the cells where color is black. No other criteria, only one criteria where color is black. So let's apply color is black, count if. Let's find it here and press tab, and let's select the range, which is your range. Okay, so it will not return a sum, so we don't have to select our sales column because we don't need the sum, we just need the count of values. And let's count on criteria that it has to be black. So now let's apply the criteria by clicking on it itself instead of writing it with double quotations. So as soon as we press enter, it will return 3. How 3? It went to this range that we selected and found out the number of rows where the color was black. So 3 only rows are present where the color is black. So these are the 3 rows. Okay, so now moving onward, we have COUNTIFS function. What does COUNTIFS do? It returns the number of rows where we have 2 variables, more than two variables, we can have more than one variable, not two variable, more than one variable. So it can be up to infinity. That's on paper, it is limited, but you can apply a lot of them. So let's do COUNTIFs. Criteria range 1, I want to count the number of rows where we have both car and color black. So car and color black, which is apparently 1, as we saw over there also, it should return 1. So let's select our criteria 1 range and then criteria itself. So let's write car, then criteria 2, and then input the criteria itself. So the criteria, I'm going to pick this as a reference, is black. As soon as I press enter, it returned 1, which is the number of rows where we have type car and color black.
Thank you for watching Ease It. If you liked our content, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching and stay safe.